The sky above Zorinthia's capital was bright with golden lights. Ships from many planets floated in the air like silver birds. He wore a simple dark suit, unlike the rich robes of the Zorinthian court, but no one dared question her. Elenia was strong, wise, and feared by many. Her voice could stop armies. Her eyes could silence halls. She ruled 1,000 worlds, yet now stood with a quiet man from a small green planet. He did not ask for power or gifts. He spent time walking in the gardens. He often sat near the old stone wall and watched the moons rise. He laughed and said the queen needed a real man. She ordered her people to look into his history, but there were missing records. Some parts of his life were blank. He had no school history, no family names. Only a long time spent alone on Earth. She asked herself, who is this man? Why does he walk like a soldier? Why do even the guards feel uneasy near him? Ethan did nothing. He did not speak. He did not move. He said he had nothing left to prove. She asked if he had ever been a soldier. He said once long ago. Then he said no more. That night, the alien leader's ship lost control and fell into the sea. No one knew why. The queen looked at Ethan. He looked back. He did not smile. He said nothing. But something in his eyes made her cold. She was the ruler of a great empire, but this man from Earth made her feel something new. She did not know if it was fear or respect or something else. Servants said he whispered in Earth's language when alone. He never looked afraid. He never looked lost. But he always looked like he was waiting for something. He had short brown hair and calm eyes. He smiled politely, but said little. She thought it was a stone. But when he moved, she saw it was the hilt of a sword. There was no blade, just a handle. She did not ask. She did not speak. She only watched. Most people thought he was too simple to marry the queen. Some called him weak. Others thought the queen must be planning something. And the wind, sometimes, whispered his name. Elenia, tall and proud, looked powerful in her shining blue armor. She said she chose Ethan for peace. She said she wanted to end wars between Earth and Zorinthia. People gathered to witness something rare. A human man from Earth was marrying Queen Elenia, ruler of the Zorinthian Empire. Ethan Granger stood quietly beside the queen. Many did not trust Earth. Some hated the idea of a human walking beside their queen. The wedding was full of light and music. Flowers from 12 galaxies floated in the air. Dancers spun with wings of flame. The queen took Ethan's hand, and the two were joined before the stars. Ethan bowed his head, quiet and respectful. He spoke few words. His voice was soft but clear. She asked what he was thinking. He smiled and said he was listening. She asked to what? He said to something old. She laughed, but not in a cruel way. She asked why he never asked questions. He said, sometimes answers come in silence. She did not understand him, but she felt something strange inside. After the wedding, Ethan lived in the palace. One evening, Elenia walked into the garden and saw Ethan staring at the sky. At a royal dinner, an alien leader made a rude comment. He said Earth people were weak. Elenia began to wonder about Ethan's past. The queen asked Ethan about his past. He said he had walked many roads and fought many fears. One night, she saw him standing on the palace roof, eyes closed, holding something small in his hand. The queen felt both safe and unsure around him. And Ethan, silent as ever, waited. For what? No one knew. But the stars seemed to know him. The days passed slowly after the wedding. Ethan stayed quiet. He did not try to control anything. He did not act like a king. He just listened, watched, and walked through the halls like he was learning something old. They said the human moved like wind in the night. She told him to watch Ethan carefully. The general was a hard man with no fear. But when he followed Ethan in secret, he returned silent. Ethan followed without armor, only in a long, dark coat. The guards fought hard. Lasers burned the air. One rebel fired at the queen. Ethan moved in front of her. He said his name was once known across Earth, but Earth forgot him. He said he was the last of the Valari, a warrior group older than most nations. He said his people were protectors, not killers. But they were hunted and destroyed by those who feared their power. He escaped, and he hid. She thought of Ethan. He had saved her life, yet still looked at her like he was a guest in someone else's home. She felt a weight in her chest. Not fear, not love. Something between. The shot hit his coat but did not stop him. He said no one would have believed him. He said peace was his last wish. But the sword still answered to him, and danger was not far. He reached into his coat and pulled out the same hilt she saw before. He raised it high. Light filled the room. He touched the stone and whispered. A soft hum filled the air. From the ground rose a small light. He watched it, then turned and walked away. The queen saw it from her window. She said nothing. She only watched. Nothing happened. Ethan took it back and the blade returned. Only he could call it. The queen stood silent. A sword made of pure energy shot out from the hilt. He told the queen he saw Ethan walk into a locked chamber and leave without opening the door. He said he heard a sound like singing metal. He said he saw no weapons, but he felt danger in the air. Elenya began to worry. They said he passed without sound. One day, a soldier found Ethan alone in the training ground. Ethan said he wanted to come. The queen hesitated, but agreed. She thought it was time to see who he really was. He was holding a wooden stick, moving through strange fighting steps. The soldier froze and watched. The movements were smooth and fast, like water cutting through stone. Ethan stepped forward and struck. One by one, the rebels fell. He moved like a ghost. Not a single guard was hurt. When it was over, silence fell. The queen stared at him. Ethan turned to her and bowed. He said the fight was over. Then he turned off the blade and placed it back inside his coat. But the next day, when asked, Ethan only smiled and said he was playing. The queen watched him too. She tried to read him like a book, but the pages were empty. He was like a puzzle missing its own picture. The guards began to speak in whispers. Elenya called her closest advisor, General Kor. One morning, a message came. A rebel group from the outer ring attacked the border station. The queen ordered her ship prepared. She would lead the defense herself. The royal vessel flew fast. The battle had already started. Rebel ships fired on the station. The queen led the guards onto the enemy ship. No one had seen anything like it. The blade made no sound, but it moved fast. Back on the ship, the queen demanded answers. She asked what kind of man he was. Ethan sat down. He looked at her with calm eyes. The queen could not believe it. She asked why he never told her. General Kor asked to see the sword. Ethan handed him the hilt. Kor pressed the button. Later that night, she stood alone in the war room. She looked at the stars. She thought of the war. She thought of peace. In the shadows of the palace, Ethan walked to the garden wall. The palace was no longer quiet. Word had spread across the stars. The human who married the queen was not an ordinary man. People called him the Blade Walker. Some said he was a ghost. Some said he was a weapon made by Earth. Others said he was a myth. Queen Elenya sat in her chamber, reading old records. She found no proof of the Valari in Earth's files. No one had heard that name in a long time. Some feared he would take control. Some wanted him gone. General Kor warned that power without loyalty was dangerous. But Elenya said nothing. She was thinking of something deeper. It was like they had been erased, but she had seen Ethan fight. She had seen his sword. She had seen his calm face in the middle of danger. She knew he was real. He said he had a teacher long ago, a man who gave him a sword and told him to protect those who could not protect themselves. They were not just soldiers now. They were something more. She walked into the hall one evening. Ethan bowed. She asked him why he really came to Zorinthia. He said he did not come for power. He came because he saw a storm coming and knew she was the only one who could stand in its path. He said she had strength, but she had not yet seen her true self. In the sky, a small dot of black moved slowly across the moon. Ethan watched it. The Queen did too. The war had not begun yet, but it was near. And when it came, they would be ready. She asked if the teacher was still alive. Ethan looked at the stars and said no. Some laughed at Ethan's story. Others listened with fear. Elenia said she believed him. She said they would prepare for war. She saw a shadow with no face and eyes full of hunger. And she saw Ethan, standing alone with his sword, holding back the dark. Her advisors asked her to watch him closely. He said the Riven were close. He could feel them. The Queen asked if they could win. Ethan said only if they stood together. She nodded. They fed on life. Long ago, the Valari fought them. They lost many. The Valari locked the Riven away in a dead part of the galaxy. But someone must have opened that gate. A new message came. A planet near the outer edge had gone silent. No signals. He told them they would learn to fight like the Valari. Some looked unsure. Others smiled. He said the training would be hard. He said fear must be broken before the sword can be raised. No ships. The Queen sent a scout team. Only one small drone returned. The footage showed a dark sky and no sound. The buildings were still standing, but the people were gone. All of them. Elenia showed the video to Ethan. He watched quietly. When it ended, he stood up and said the Riven had returned. The room fell silent. Ethan told them the Riven were creatures from deep space, older than any empire. They did not speak. They did not want peace. The Queen called a council. The leaders of many worlds joined by screen. Ethan walked into the training halls the next day. He asked for the Queen's best guards. 30 warriors stood before him. The days grew long. The palace echoed with the sound of swords, feet, and shouting. Ethan trained with them every day. He showed them how to move without being seen. He taught them how to fight without anger. He moved faster than any of them. He never shouted. He never praised. But he never gave up on anyone. One night, a guard named Lyra stayed behind. She asked Ethan where he learned to fight. Queen Elenia watched the training from above. She felt something change. Her people were growing stronger. That night, Elenia dreamed of fire in the sky. She saw ships falling and cities burning. The next morning, Ethan stood by the garden wall again. The Queen walked beside him. She said she had seen the shadow. They turned toward the stars. The stars looked quiet, but something dark moved between them. The black dot they saw last night grew larger each day. Ships from outer zones sent weak signals. Some were full of panic. Others ended mid-sentence. One by one, those signals stopped. Queen Elenia called the leaders again. She showed them maps. The blackness was spreading. She said it was not a storm, not a gas cloud, but something alive. Some leaders still did not believe. Some said she was afraid. She ended the call and stood in silence. Ethan watched her from the shadows. He did not speak until she turned. He said the Riven were not just killers. They were eaters of memory. They took not only lives, but stories, names, and light. He showed her old past under the floor, tunnels built before her time. She placed her hand over the planet core. Ships that went to look never returned. The Queen sent drones. One came back. The video showed creatures made of smoke and metal. She said no. She said her place was here. She said if the Riven wanted her throne, they would have to take it from her bones. The council fell silent. They moved like wind but struck like fire. No sound, no light, just hunger. She said she would not let it burn. Ethan came close. He said she had fire in her voice. She said he had silence in his hands. They looked at each other. There was no kiss, no soft word, just stillness. He said every palace had secret roots. He said the Valari believed no place was strong unless it had deep ground. He said when they touched the planet, even its history faded. Only ash remained. But each of them felt ready. They were not just guards now. They were something new. General Corps prepared the fleets. Ships moved to guard the middle systems. People began to leave the border worlds. Lyra, the tall one with sharp eyes, was the first to finish the sword path. The sky turned dark. But the people below did not run. They looked up. They saw their queen. They saw the silent man with the glowing sword. Ethan gave her a nod. She smiled but did not speak. The others followed. Inside was a room full of Valari armor. Ethan said he had saved it long ago. He said it was not just his fight now. She walked inside and chose a set of armor. The sword was no longer enough. The people must believe in more than weapons. She asked what more they had. He said they had each other. Each day they grew faster, stronger, and calmer. They no longer trained to impress. They trained to protect. Panic spread. His skin was gray, and his eyes were wide with fear. He said the Riven were here. He said they came in silence. He said he saw shadows moving through metal. Then he died in the Queen's Hall, without a wound. Children cried. Mothers packed bags. Fathers held their families and told them to be strong. In the palace, the 30 guards trained harder. One morning, a small ship arrived. A pilot stumbled out. He had no helmet. Ethan told the Queen it was time. The Queen stood on the palace balcony that night. She spoke to the people of Zarinthia. She told them the truth. She said a great enemy had come. She said they would not run. She said they would not hide. She said they would stand. The people listened. Some cried. Some held their fists high. They believed her. Ethan and Elenya walked through the palace. Later, Elenya sat alone with a map. The blackness reached the edge of the first moon. Ethan stood in the training hall. The 30 guards stood ready. He walked down the line. He said nothing. The council asked the Queen if she would leave the planet. That night, Ethan took the Queen to the old chamber beneath the garden. He placed the sword hilt on a stone. Lights glowed. A hidden door opened. The next day, ships began to fall from the sky. The Riven had arrived. The Queen walked out onto the palace wall. Ethan stood beside her. The guards lined up behind them. And for the first time, they felt no fear. The first shadow fell over the city. The sky turned dark as the Riven fleet moved in. No engines, no fire, just a silent black wave floating through space. The air turned cold. The light faded. People looked up and held their breath. Ethan stood on the palace wall with his sword hilt in his hand. He watched the sky, calm as always. Queen Elenya wore the Valari armor. It shined with blue and gold under the fading light. The palace shields held for a few minutes, but then the energy cracked. The walls shook. The ground opened. Screams rose in the streets. But when they reached Ethan, they stopped. The sword met them and pushed them back. Each strike sent out a wave of light. The Queen fought beside him, her armor glowing brighter with every hit. She did not shout. She did not cry. She moved with power and grace. The guards behind them were ready. The 30 warriors stood tall. They were no longer just protectors. They were hope. The power of its blow cracked the stone under their feet. The people watched from rooftops. It flew into the sky and came down like a falling star. Ethan met it in the air. His sword lit up the sky. They clashed again and again. The ground below cracked. Trees burned. Water turned to steam. They saw their queen, shining like the stars. They saw the quiet man who moved like a storm. He shouted for the first time, a word from the old world. A name, a vow. His sword burned brighter. He struck the Riven leader with all his strength. The light exploded. The shadow cracked. Statues were built. Stories were told. Children played with wooden swords and shouted his name. One child looked at the stars and whispered, "Ethan." Ethan blocked it with both hands. The Queen swung her sword and sent a wave of fire. He looked down at the creature and spoke one word. Then he raised the sword and ended it. The Riven bent, dodged, and returned with speed. But Ethan was faster. The first attack came fast. Black shapes fell from the sky like rain. From it came a new figure, a tall form made of smoke and light. It floated down without sound and landed in front of the palace. One of the hidden tools Ethan had found. She aimed it at the ship in the sky and fired a beam of light. They stood together. The people cheered. The riven ship shook. It fired back. The Queen fell, but the beam had hit. She said the war was won, but the fight for peace would never end. She said they must become more than strong. They must become wise. Ethan pressed the button. The sword of light appeared in his hand. The blade made no sound. People stood. They looked around. The silence was heavy, but it was not fear. It was peace. He stepped forward, and the battle began. The riven moved like shadows with sharp edges. They cut through stone, metal, and fire. Her blade met the enemy with force. She had learned well. The others followed, moving like Ethan taught them. It said all life must end. It said memory must be clean. Ethan said nothing. He raised his sword. The Queen stood beside him. The battle spread across the city. He took nothing but the sword. He walked into the night and was not seen again. He knew this form. He had seen it long ago. The leader of the Riven, the one who ended the Valari. Its face was smooth and empty. Its voice was like wind and thunder mixed together. Ships fell. Towers cracked. But the people did not run. They fought. They held the line. The guards joined the fight. Lyra led the charge. In the sky, the riven ship hovered. It was shaped like a circle, black and endless. Ethan stopped. The riven leader said the fight was useless. The final battle began. The leader struck first. They fought in the center of the city. The riven screamed. Its body changed shape, arms turning into blades. Queen Elenya climbed the broken palace tower. She held a staff of old power. Ethan saw her fall. Something inside him rose. The riven leader dropped to the ground. It tried to rise. Ethan walked slowly. The black sky faded. The riven ship broke into dust. The shadows pulled back. The light returned. Ethan walked to the Queen. She was alive. Hurt, but alive. He helped her up. Later, the council asked Ethan to take the throne beside Elenya. He said no. He said he was not meant to rule. He said his time was done. The Queen understood. That night, she gave a speech to the people. Ethan left the palace with no sound. Years passed. The wind carried the name across the world.